here are four things. I want everyone to remember FAST, F-A-S-T, because I believe we're in a world of speed, right? We need to be able to catch up, keep up, be able to get ahead. We have to outlearn everybody else, outthink everybody else, apply everybody else. So F-A-S-T, the F, if you want to learn any subject or skill better, let's say it's sales or marketing or something. First thing I would recommend, F, forget. Forget what you currently know about the subject, because how are you going to learn something new if you feel like you know it already? Right? A lot of people I'm sure that come to you feel like, oh, I've been in this business for 30 years. I have 30 years of experience. But when you look into it, they really only have 1 year experience that they've repeated for a few decades. Do you know what I mean? But they're so closed-minded, and your mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So forget about what you know so you can empty your cup, because how are you going to learn something potentially new? Because there could be new methods of doing these things, right? And then also forget about distractions, because the key to human memory is really attention. The art of memory is the art of attention. People blame their retention, but it's them paying attention. And a lot of people forget things. And what I'm saying is forget about what's distracting you, meaning that if you want to learn something and you're watching this movie with the subtitles, or you're looking at those 5,000 words, right? They're most important. When thoughts come into your mind, don't fight them, because what you resist persists, just like in sales, right? But just write it down. If something comes in your mind about, oh, I got to call this person, just write it down so you can release it, right? Because you cannot multitask. It's been proven for the majority of the population, which is most people, that we can't spend time cognitively putting our attention at two different places or more. We think we're multitasking, but in actuality, we're actually task switching. We're going from one task to another. But what it costs you is, number one, mistakes. Number two, time. Now, if you want to learn something faster and remember it better, the A in FAST stands for you need to act. You need to act. A lot of people, there's a big lie, a limited idea entertained, that knowledge is power. And it is just, knowing something doesn't make you better off than somebody else, but acting on that knowledge certainly does. And so I believe knowledge at best is potential power, but applied knowledge becomes real power. That you want to act with thought and then think with action in mind, right? But the challenge is 20th century education really taught us to be passive. It's like sit quietly by yourself and just be lectured to. And the human brain doesn't learn through consumption. It learns through creativity and creation. And so I would say you need to be active, because learning is not a spectator sport, just like life is not a spectator sport. So people can't simply listen to a podcast or just read a book. They have to be thinking, how can I act on this? Right. And simple things they could do is like take notes. So a lot of people, there's a learning curve, but people don't realize there's a forgetting curve, that within 48 hours, 2 days of learning something, up to 80% of it is gone, into the ether. And so being active is asking questions. Being active is taking notes. And I have a very specific way of taking notes, for me. And I like handwriting notes, because they've done studies on, I love digitizing things because it's convenient. It stores information, you can share it easier. But when it comes to learning something, when you handwrite notes, when you type, you could type pretty fast, and keep up with the speaker or the educator. But when you have to write it, you can't write that fast. So it forces you to step out and say, what's important here? How am I going to use this? How does this relate to what I already know? It forces you to think, right? So I like handwriting notes. And specifically, I'll take a piece of paper, and I suggest everyone take notes when they're listening to the show, put a line down the page, and on the left side, you're capturing. On the right side, you're creating. And this is how you can be more active. On the left side, you're capturing information. So you're writing how to remember names, how to speed read, how to be able to change your habits, the stuff we're talking about in this podcast. You can capture it. And on the right side, you're being creative. So instead of you getting distracted, I'd rather you write your impressions of what you're capturing. And so it's like, how am I going to use this? Why must I use this? How does this relate to what I already know? When am I going to apply it, right? Have your mind go there. So on the left side, you're capturing, you're note taking. On the right side, you're creating, you're note making. And so that's one way of being more active. What also will help you besides that is A is active, the S is state, because we're not logical, we're biological. You think about dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, we're this chemical soup. And even the poets know it. Maya Angelou says, people will forget what you say. They'll forget what you did. They'll always, though, remember how you made them feel. it's, if you have to give a sales presentation, obviously it's great to be able to study in the area that you're giving the presentation. If you're giving a Broadway, we train a lot of Broadway performers to be able to practice and study, on stage, because that context gives you the content. But often you can't do that. So what do? You could bring the environment in with you through your sense of smell. So what if you are studying and you had a unique lip balm or bubble gum or essential oil, and then when you need to perform that, you wear that same cologne or that same perfume or that same, then you're more likely to remember it, because that's
I
essential.
teach that. Yeah, I teach that stuff in anchoring for sales for a state of certainty. We use something called boom boom, and you link this smell. So you wait till you close a really great sale when you're in a state of absolute certainty. Then you take that smell right after you close. Then you start to link the smell to that great feeling you get after you close. So you don't try to recreate it in your mind, because I always found it to be sort of, you've probably been through that stuff, the NLP stuff. I'm sure you've been through like the anchoring stuff, and they say, imagine, try to recreate it in your mind visually. And I find that while that can get you somewhere, the most effective way to get someone to anchor in a state of certainty is wait till you're actually in that state organically, and then you introduce the sense of smell. Why have, to recreate it's one thing, but to actually wait till you close it and you're like, yes, and you have that incredible rush of euphoria and real emotion, and then you anchor in with the smell. I've had tremendous success helping people anchor like that. What are your thoughts on that?
No,
Makes
that's
sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can anchor it with that sense of smell. Even if people are watching this on video, you did a physical movement, and you can anchor it that way also as well.
Right.
And then finally, the T in FAST. F is forget, A is being active, S is state, and the T to learn anything faster, and remember it, is to learn with the intention of teaching. Teach. Because when you learn,
I always say that too. I always
absolutely.
say it. Until you teach something, you never really know it.
Yeah,
Until you teach it.
exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
sure.
So if you listen to this podcast, you listen to your training with the intention of teaching your team or teaching your significant other or teaching your kids or whatever, you're going to learn it much better, because you're going to focus better, right? You're going to take better notes. You're going to ask questions, and it becomes yours if you need to be able to do it. So when you teach it, you get to learn it twice. So why not learn with the intention of
Sure.
teaching?